Okay, so our original question was, how do we motivate a hyperactive child to engage or participate in schools? We sort of changed our question a little bit in that we often search for information about ADHD children, just because there was better quality and quantities of research out there for ADHD materials specifically. So this meant defining what ADHD meant. And what it looks like. It stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, and I'm going to give you some signs and symptoms and just some general information about the disorder. One particular article that we found talked about a study where they looked at the brains of people who suffered from severe ADHD. They found that these people tended to have smaller brains, about 3 to 4% smaller, and had issues with the connectivity in the frontal lobe. Now, the frontal lobe is responsible for controlling inhibition, concentration, impulse control, and motor activities. So this can kind of give you an idea of where these ADHD issues stem from. Typically, ADHD children or people score lower on IQ scores, and they have problems with their working memory. They tend to be impulsive, have a short attention span, or lock on to certain activities, so they might have a certain infatuation with particular activities. They can't sit still, they're fidgety, they have poor planning skills, they're often intelligent but have issues with literacy and numeracy, again stemming back to problems with working memory. There may be inconsistencies with their performance, so they might be forgetful or uncoordinated. Some signs and symptoms in some very young children. They might struggle with bladder and bowel control. In infancy, hyperactivity may be manifested in colic, sleeping and feeding problems, restlessness, and they might start walking at a young age and be particularly active at a young age. This sleeping disorder side of things we'll touch on a little bit later in the presentation. Some social and emotional problems encountered with ADHD children. They often have more social and emotional problems. They have trouble making and keeping friends, difficulties with interpreting social cues and learning social skills, and trouble controlling their behavior and their emotions. Because of these problems, other children may find it difficult to deal with the hyperactivity of these ADHD children and might actually find them annoying. So often ADHD children are shunned or bullied. They have trouble cooperating. They can be physical and aggressive or may act out when they're upset. They might be anxious or depressed or quiet and withdrawn. Some other interesting facts about ADHD is that it's not something that's outgrown. Instead, when a child reaches his or her teen years, they may have outgrown the hyperactive side of things. However, the inattention still remains. It's common to sort of popular myth, it's not an ailment of modern society, nor is it a side effect of watching too much TV or overexposure to video games or junk food. But again, this is something that's going to be touched on later on in our presentation. It's not something that's overdiagnosed. It's something that we hear a lot of the time that, oh, they're just throwing around diagnosis for ADHD all over the place. It's figured that it's only about 5% of the population is diagnosed with ADHD, so you might have one, maybe 2 students in your class that have ADHD. Typically more boys are diagnosed than girls, just because boys tend to display more of the hyperactive side of things, whereas girls aren't necessarily as hyperactive. However, girls with ADHD struggle just as much academically and socially compared to boys, despite this sort of overlooking. Girls often tend to bully and internalize their problems and suffer with depression and anxiety.